Testing, check, check, 1, 2, 3. Testing, check, check. Hello, hello, welcome to Ninja Robot Studio LLC stream. I play video games and VR experiences and talk through them from a UX designer's perspective, because game development has a very heavy and direct influence on VR and XR development, so it makes sense that we would study video games to understand how to create better quality immersive experiences in XR. So I go by genre. I've done tabletop gaming, RPGs, I've done training sims and so forth. I am now, you can check all of those out here on the YouTube stream. I've got playlists set up for you. Now I'm going through and doing branching narrative games that have choices matter, and they change the outcome of the game. And this is a type of game that I'm wanting to learn more about myself, because I have done branching narrative in the past with training. That's my background, creating trading sims in VR. And safety training with consequences. So that means branching narrative, because choices matter. And it, even when I was doing it back then, it was intriguing me enough that I want to learn more. And so we're kind of learning it together, even though I have already created an experience with branching narrative. Been on a team that created a branching narrative. So yeah, it's sharing. So this is a very good article that we can learn the basics of, like, branching dialogue, branching narrative, and there it is in the chat. There are different types of narratives. So normally you have a story that starts, you've got a problem, you've got a struggle, it's very linear. And you don't really, regardless of what you do, you can't really change the outcome. It's like, it doesn't matter what dialogue choice you make, outcome's not going to change. So what's the point? Why not just say whatever outrageous thing it gives you the option to say? It's not going to change anything. But with branching narrative, that matters quite a bit. So there's different types of branching narrative, branching dialogue, and this article talks about it. One type is where you've got these different narratives that break off into side things with some free exploration, but there is still a linear overarching story. So Final Fantasy would be, any of the Final Fantasy games, at least the ones I've played, are like this. There is an overarching story that's going to be the end regardless of your choices, but there are a lot of side stories that you can go down to make decisions that and enjoy the story. And overall, Genshin Impact is also like this. However, there is a subset of quests in there that are choices matter, that there are multiple outcomes. But today we're looking at Wildermyth, and I'm not quite sure how they have their branching narrative set up, because I haven't played the game yet. We're starting from the very beginning, but there are different types. So you've got some that branch and then they go into a... Final Fantasy does this at some points, because you'll start in a different city and then you'll converge, and then the story converges and goes off from there, but it doesn't branch out again at that point. It's more of a... It starts in the same spot, you converge depending on which city you chose, and then it You branch off depending on which city you chose, and then it converges back into the main storyline, which is more like this with side quests that go off and do other things, but they don't affect the main overall narrative. And so there's all different kinds. So the one that we played last week was Undertale, and it was kind of you had multiple endings. So I would say it was kind of like you could either play the passive path and get a different ending than if you were a motor hobo and just killed everything you saw, versus if you were some kind of like in between, you'd get a different story ending. And so that's a map of many endings. And I'm thinking that what we're doing today is possibly like that, but it might be an open world structure, because I'm looking at the review, because I haven't played it yet. So this is what we're playing, Wildermyth. This is an RPG. It's an action RPG that you are... it is party-based, and it's a storytelling RPG. So you make decisions, and it's like looks like a tabletop RPG. But the story is such that you can have, similar to if you're playing a real life RPG, there are many different things, many different paths you could go down, depending on what your player decides to do. And this is kind of like that. So you're deciding, it's character driven, procedurally generated tactical RPG. So procedurally generated means that there's not a set, it's not a set story. There is, using this procedural generation, or AI, kind of, if you want to call it AI, it's code. You can make all kinds of different outcomes from this game. And it gives you choices and answers your every decision with consequences that drive your character forward. So every decision you make matters. Whereas, like, if you play some games, again, your choice doesn't matter. Whatever you respond doesn't matter, because it's not going to affect the outcome. This one, every choice you make, every decision has a consequence. So this is a very elaborately written game. Very elaborately, and I would love to study this in more depth. I might do that in the future. But well, I'm just starting out learning branching narrative, and if you don't know, branching narrative is an art of its own. It has its own education skill set. It's a writer's skill, and you can be very good at it. You can be very crappy at it. It is something that you have to, a skill that you have to build up over time to be good at. And some people, of course, you know, there's lots of people that are just gifted that way. But for the most part, it is an important skill that is not something you can just pick up overnight. So the one that we played last week was more like this. It had multiple endings. I think it had 3 endings. But I think that the one that we're playing today might be like this, maybe. True open world map. Your decisions matter. So we'll see. There may be an overarching story, but see. Depends on your game, what you're going for. But I highly recommend this article to let you understand the basics of branching narrative. But what this IGN review says, and I'll share this as well, this talks about Wildermyth and how they've written the game. They combine storytelling and procedural generation, and it has great writing, solid tactics, and some clever design decisions. Okay, I'm probably going to want to study this game in more depth at some point. This one and Persona 5 is another one. The choices matter in the Persona games. Choices matter. So those are good ones to try too. If you want to look at branching narrative and Fire Emblem Three Houses. I would love to stream Fire Emblem Three Houses, but It's on my Switch. I have a Switch Lite, not a normal Switch, so I can't project or stream it. It's the Switch Lite that doesn't have the hardware. So can't do it. Not gonna buy a Switch. I'm gonna buy a new console. It's gonna be a PS5, not. So the I just read something that was, yeah, so there's a rhythm of exploring a new zone, participating in a randomly selected and procedurally flexible short story that develops the characters in the world. Combat mission, assaulting the enemies you find there, and then consolidation of your gains in a way that grants the party upgrades. After enough of those, it's back to plot mission to the end chapter. So there is an overall plot. So, but your characters develop and change depending on your decisions, I think, is what happens. Wildermyth uses those creatively, uses writing. The writing is really good. Each section of the story is told with a little comic book style cutscene, and Wildermyth uses those creatively to grant the illusion of movement. In the touch that reminded me of the way Metal Gear Solid 5 starts, it levels by crediting the designer. Wildermyth starts its levels by crediting the designer. Wildermyth includes a title scene for each short story that includes the author's name. That's cool. These vignettes can range from the somewhat generic for setting up a fight, a character falls down a hole, members have to decide how to save her. So, great personality. So they do say that the character traits affect the game. So the actual personality traits are used in a story in ways that have the characters reacting to events in proper ways. You know how sometimes when you play a game, the character, even if they have a certain personality, the options that you have for that character in the branching narrative that's written don't fit the personality. So this one actually fits the personality. It's cool. So it's true role playing. So it says here. So yeah, let's get to it then. Let's play it. This is very interesting. I put that in the chat there if you want to check it out. And this is the link to it on Steam. It's also available on Epic Games if you prefer Epic Games. I think I just added it. On me. Okay, yeah, it is. It's just not showing on my side. Okay. So there it is. Now let's... I did have one follow-up from last week about Undertale, is that I was complaining that the story would play even, and you couldn't like skip forward or anything, but actually you can stop the autoplay of that story at the beginning that keeps playing over and over again if you just hit enter. It just didn't indicate that you could do that. This is a standard thing in gaming, but if you're brand new to games, or if you haven't played an old game in a long time like me, then you'll forget about that. So there's nothing to do to indicate that. There's nothing saying you can't show a tooltip. It doesn't hurt anything. And it's great for people who are new to gaming. So that is from last week. I'm just going to go ahead and add it here to this Undertale one. So we play through a game, and then at the end of it, we'll do what's called a Rose, Thorn, Bud method. Rose, Thorn, Bud analysis. And that is where we go through and we say what worked well, what doesn't work well, and what would we do about it. And then we talk about if it's not an XR game, how would we translate that into XR? What would we need to keep in mind if we were going to make this type of thing in XR? So now let us, and so that's what we're going to do at the end of this one, but we're also going to see what can we see about procedural generation, what can we see about branching narrative that as we play the game. You get that going? Here it is, Wildermyth at the very beginning. And I do like to... Suddenly got really loud. I do like to use all of the butchered misspellings of my name whenever I create a new character, especially for tabletop RPGs. So I think that the butchered misspelling that I'm going to do this time, that is seriously loud to me. I don't know if it's loud to y'all, but it's loud to me. I'm going to try Akatha this time. Do Akatha. It just keeps getting louder. At least to me. Okay, so let's create it. We're gonna be Akatha. Look at the options here. Borderless window. Okay. Frames per second. We can affect our performance. Audio, because this music volume is so loud. I turn down the ambient volume. I always have to do this in games because I have a hard time understanding the words when people are talking when the music's too loud. It doesn't feel like it's doing anything. Then change. UI size, so we can make our UI bigger. That's nice for accessibility. They have Japanese. Oh, they don't have Japanese. Okay. I wonder if you can download the different languages here. Problem is that they're saying everything in English instead of in... most of these languages are not translated. They're listed here to aid community translating efforts. Okay, that's cool. But all of the languages are in English, not in the native language, which is a problem if you don't speak if you don't speak English, you don't know what your language is in English. It's better to have the language in the actual language. Español, Nihongo, Francais, things like that, instead of French, Spanish, Japanese. Can we use a controller or... and it automatically switched. So as soon as I hit my joystick on my PS4 controller, it switched to a controller. However, as is normally the case, it is showing an Xbox controller, not PlayStation controller. Can we tell it that this is a PlayStation? And the keybinds are still... Okay, you can do D-pad. And yeah, so all the tooltips are for the Xbox, not the PlayStation. We can do it at account. It lets you do mods. Okay, so done. And do we want to do the tutorial? Okay, it's not a tutorial, it's just a list of things to do. Okay. So this is standard movement in a tabletop RPG. I don't want to sit here and go through all of it. Save files are plentiful. There is an autosave. Okay. You can undo. Nice. Okay. I'm not going to remember all of this if I read all of this, because this is not a great way of doing a tutorial to onboard someone. It's best to teach them as you go. So we'll see if they do that. But it is a nice place to look at the mechanics. Let's go tools. New battle. Open editor. New story. Oh, you can do multiplayer. Nice. Age of Ulstrix. 3-chapter story. I wonder how that multiplayer affects the story. 3-chapter story that is geared towards new players. Face off against the implacable Gorgon leader Ulstrix. Okay. Next. Storyteller, tragic hero, walking lunch custom. That's funny. I always go easy mode. Because if it's hard on easy mode, then yeah. I'm gonna try storyteller mode. Focuses on telling stories with more control over the outcomes. Okay. I apologize for the train that's coming by. All progress is autosaved. Game owner is final. No retries, no reloads. Not recommended for your first playthrough. So yeah, we'll leave that unchecked, but that's interesting. You can choose carved in stone. That's cool. I don't have any mods, so let's go. Maybe. Okay. So I can choose my party. A greedy coward, an aloof poet, and a compassionate loner. Or we can re-roll. So we do have a party. Starting calamities. 100. Calamities make the game harder. The recommendation is based on the difficulty level and which legacy heroes you start with. Since I'm going storyteller mode, it's recommending none. Hot-headed intellectual, decisive snark, compassionate goofball, compassionate intellectual, romantic goofball, compassionate leader, passionate snark, snarky greed wagon. Romantic leader, goofish, greedy coward. I already have enough cowards here. I don't want any romantics. How about a decisive leader? I lost my decisive leader. Decisive coward. Snark, cowardly intellectual. Fine. Bookish loner. Cowardly intellectual. Goofish snark. Poetical hothead. Cowardly greed wagon. It's probably gonna make it really interesting either way, but apparently these personalities really matter. How can you be okay? Okay. I'm just gonna randomize it. You can get some pretty interesting. Team of romantics, no thank you. Okay. I just have to choose. I have to choose. Whatever. Let's start. Okay, so they're doing all the procedural stuff now, I guess. It doesn't tell me my character though. What is my personality, or do I just play like me? Supposed to have fiber, but it's absolutely not behaving like fiber. This book. There's room in it for another story. It's cold. I'm stuck here. So here's the author, I guess. There's a wiki. Anything to prove I lived, I guess. Not that I'm giving up. Someone will come. Maybe my friends. And they have tooltips here as well, which is nice. And you see your party members over here. Can't do anything with them yet. But alright, this is how I started. Here in our yondering country, something in the woods is very strange. Concerned only with idle questions and memories, a young woman named Zephieta takes the seasonal road to the town of Ottergreen. How many times have I walked this old road? Zephieta is one of my characters here. The nostalgic animal, the human. Call me true to my nature then. Breeze is light that day, birds are timid. In fact, the whole world is taking a breath, ready to leap in the sea. So my guess is that depending on which characters you choose here, this story and their perspective changes. That's my guess. That's a lot of masterful story writing right there. I'm there already, huh? Here's the hard part, getting Abric out of bed. Abric is the other character. Hopefully it's just him in there, and hopefully he's wearing clothes this time, or else yeah, smoke. Fluttering flames roost among the far-off rooftops. Zephieta hurries towards town, thinking of Abric, a young man whom she's known since girlhood. So I choose. Watch me worry and he's fine. He must have tried to cook breakfast again. I may not do this for anyone, I think. Rescue them, right? He must have tried to cook again. Abric, you alright? I'll get you out. Just make a little noise. Okay, so they are going to teach you as you go. A hero can do a single move, which takes one action, or a double move, which takes both actions. All heroes get to take their turns in any order, and then all enemies take their turns. Okay. So how many tiles can you move? How far can I go? Open door. House is still standing at least. Fabric, you know you can't really hide from a fire. Doesn't know. Why is no one? The door's unlocked. The door is unlocked, so Fabric shows it open. Hey, do you not smell the get inside? Lamb. Yeah, these, what were they? They were things. They were monsters. Those things. There, hear it? I have one trapped in the garden. Staying in here isn't really an option, right? So here I've got some tools around. You're stronger than I am. You can swing something pretty good. I bet we can at least drive it off. I hope we can. So I'd like to keep this creature at arm's length. If it breaks stones, it'll break bones. This is for cooking. Why'd I grab this? I'll do that one. It can be killed, right? Just be ready when you open that door. Okay, this is a faux card. Hooves thrown sloppily around beneath it. It runs staggering, bellowing its agony. Okay. Can I pan the map? Oh, I can. Okay. Where's the garden? I guess it's over there. How do you get over there? Oh, okay. This way. Attack scenery. But I can't attack. Wait, so is the monster this way? Or that way? What is a metal bucket for? Guess I can put fires out with that. Why do I have to come this way? I think the thing's over here. Yeah, there it is. And he's about to die. Okay. Stand adjacent to an ally to wall them in. Walling reduces incoming damage by 1. It doesn't stack. Shoot. That thing. Slows movement and deals 1 magic. Wait. Want to attack it. But it's left this ooze crop. Zafieta is now a greenhorn warrior. I can choose an ability. Zafieta's heightened senses allow her to perform up to 2 reaction strikes per turn. Every other turn, as a swift action, Zafieta makes a daring leap up to 3 spaces away. Once per combat, as a swift action, Zafieta frightens the enemy, forcing them to spend their next turn running away. Do that one. Cobric Cobb is now a greenhorn hunter. Cobric's ranged attacks have 2 pierce. Twice per combat, as a swift action, throws a jump jaw trap that will deal 3 damage and pin the first enemy who walks near. Cobric is coated his weapons in quelling moss. His melee and ranged attacks apply poison. As an action, he can toss a flask of burning moss that applies poison to all units in the area. I'll do that. I don't know if I need that. Stunt chance. Percentage chance that attacks will inflict additional damage and stunt effects. Trap of crafty. You have to... Permanent, okay? You can't swap stuff. You're about to get very popular. The creature's death is quiet. It seems to slip from life in a few stunned hazy blinks. They'll spend a piece of the day getting the flames under control. The damage isn't as bad as it could have been. Townsfolk emerge from the hiding to fight fires and clear debris, some full of curiosity, others visibly haunted by what they've seen. We should go. Goriel is alone, which isn't necessarily worrying, but just anyway, is promise is a promise. Goriel? She's at the ruined tower by now. It's a long way. Can we leave the town a mess? Others will take care of it, but Goriel will be waiting for us. What happened today could be happening everywhere, couldn't it? Something about that tower is just stuck in my mind. It's like when you get apple skin in your teeth. Is it really? Yeah. Anyway, I just think we said we'd meet her, we should. The tower in the hills. You've been there? Yeah, once. Actually looking at the tracks, they come and they go that direction. Zafieta and Abrich follow the pounded path of monstrous feet, hoping for the best and dreading every other possibility. Just be breathing okay so we can yell. We can all yell and go home. Better be alive and unhurt. Goriel, you said you'd be fine. Don't make me call you a liar. Better be alive and unhurt. A wordless while passes between them, but the quiet only heightens their worry. You've known Goriel longer than I have. She's pretty capable, I feel like. Yeah, Goriel's a little pushy at times, but she does enough to disappoint me, you know. So I'm guessing each of those choices also really matters because it's gonna affect our party dynamics, I'm guessing, as well. Weird things do tend to happen around her, but I'd say she's probably up there now. Figuring things out. In order to find sites in the wilderness, heroes must scout the land, which takes time. Click on an unscouted tile to show the scout. I can't. That's all I have. The tower where Goriel had arranged to meet Zafiet and Abrik is a place she often used to escape to as a girl. This is the previous night. She knows its rooms and floors so well. She could survive being chased through them. And now I wait, I suppose, and she's coughing for some reason. Dust gets deep as rain puddles in here. Alive's alive until that beast breaks through. You're a rare beast. Folks would pay to see you. I'd pay not to. It's picturesque old tower, perfect for a plot twist. Now it's little more than a strange nest for spiders, owls, and trysting lovers. But as the old will tell you, precious things go overlooked in a ruin. What lodges amid the bones of failure is often the dream that drove it. That book. Why have I never... You see there. I guess you're wondering why I'm talking to myself, huh, beast? I'm also wondering. Goriel bends to pull it loose. Book's heavier than its slender spine suggests. Look at all this. It's full of strange stories, the folklore of folk long forgotten. The Chained Girl gives no great insight. It's the uncomfortable story of a girl shackled to a rock by her parents who sends her spirit free, moving through the links of the chain that binds her. The Tears of Oak Man is a weird, rootless tragedy of a man made of oak who stands on a sea cliff and is eaten by termites as he waits for his driftwood love to wash ashore. The flotsam beauty floats forever past the edge of the incoming tide. The Otter Green Dancer claims there once danced a man in so many spinning circles that he stopped moving and everything else began to turn instead. I can't remember the characters, the personality traits of these characters that I chose. And it's keeping track of the log here. But I think that might be affecting what her response is here. And if I'm correct, this is very, very dependent on the character and personality that you've chosen. And I could go back and choose different characters and play it again to see if anything changes. I'm guessing it does, because this is procedurally generated. And if that's the case, then this is actually a very brilliant branching narrative that I want to study a lot more. Because we learn the best by deconstructing things. So I'll probably, when I get to where I'm going to be spending more time studying branching narrative, maybe here on stream, I'll be doing that. We'll see. Goriel reaches the last word of the final tall tale. A few blank pages are left. This book. Something in her feels like it's coming loose, but she can't tell exactly what. There's room in it for another story. Hold. I'm stuck here. But alright, this is how I'd start it. Here in our yondering country, Goyle writes, words are ready. Omens have formed in the fabric of everything, and she's beginning to recognize them now. Some are just misgivings. They've crept through her body like the sourceless aches one wakes with. Others are more substantial. Now they seem lightning plain, a promise of thunder. For in the wild black woods where birds once belled, a hateful silence turns. Pain lights Goriel's head. Subsides. I made it to morning. She lowers her bleary eyes. Her story lies before her in luminous script. Empty pages have sprouted behind it. Why do I feel powerful? She pulls the spoon from her pocket. She slides a branch from the revel. It's sturdy. It has a palm-loving twist. Staff or a spoon? I'll pick the staff. Thanks. Well, beast, it's time. I'm getting out of here. And depending on if you chose the spoon or the staff, it's gonna do something different. It charges without seeing misshapen tusks swinging wildly. So this is much more like a live tabletop gaming session, which is pretty cool. Use interfusion to kill from a distance. On Lara Stone. So I don't have a character in here named Akatha. It seems I'm just using these characters. It charges without seeing misshapen tusks swinging wildly. Wasn't it that way? From a distance? Can I use it from here? Mingle the mystic's life energy with a blaze or piece of scenery. Interfuse targets grant vision and can be used for further purposes. But I can't reach the monster right now. Interfuse with an object, then use the object to attack. No. Use the interfuse ability to connect with fire or scenery. Different types of scenery give different effects and abilities. Okay. Many of these let you use the scenery to damage the enemies. Okay, so it's not a direct strike thingy. So I'll interfuse. Something close by. Mannequins. Constrict. The hammers will barrage. That's gonna be too far away, I think. What's the range? 5 range, so it's next to it. I'm gonna hammer. Hopefully. So the object you're interfused with has an ability you can use. Different kinds of objects do different things. So now I can choose barrage on that. Cool. That's a cool skill. Goriel Gower is now a greenhorn mystic. As a mystic, Goriel has acquired the knack for interfusing her spirit with earthly things, drawing on these bonds to enact formidable magics. Mythweaver is passive, passive, passive. They're all passive. Okay. Potency per infused +1. Garb, passive, 50% chance to reflect damage while interfused. Books, lore dump. I'm tempted. Greater constrict to textiles. When Goriel takes damage for each interfused object, 1 point is prevented, and the object takes 2 damage instead. Applies poison to enemies who step next to it. I already have someone that can do that. I'm going to do one of these two. When Goriel takes damage for each interfused object, 1 point is prevented, and the object takes 2 damage instead. 50% that to reflect damage while interfused. This is a for sure thing. This one's 50-50. Lore dump. Greater constrict. I don't want to do this one. I want to do that one. It's more interesting. And Pauldrons of Divinity are a warding. Okay, cool. I'll do that. And claim that. She's gonna be squishy. More monsters roam the ruined halls and rattle the rotting furniture. But Goriel moves quietly, sensing her way in the dark. And the artwork, probably they changed the artwork depending on which thing you chose, which is cool. Daylight lands on her wrist. Cool wind soothes her tired eyes. Still the same world. She closes the tower door, gentle to make no noise. And she's wearing the pauldrons because I chose to do them. I go back. Want to see. Yep, she's wearing the pauldrons. Oops. No! Didn't want to skip the whole story. Still the same world. She closes. That's really nice. You can go back. I really appreciate that. Oh, I can see the character sheets. Cowardly romantic. He was hiding. So relationships affect your party. Pillars of Eternity does this too. Your relationships. Oh, so does all the Persona stuff. Well, Gafietta is the bookish poet. Okay. And she's a guardian. And she's a mystic. Ah, you can change their hairstyle and everything. You can choose their voices, their gender, their height. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Ah. So, is she bookish? Yeah, she's poetical greed wagon. I don't really know what that means. She learned to live as much in her imagination as in reality. Mornings daunted her. It was the night she craved and thought to make eternal. Her story was rather poetic. So I'm guessing if she was... I'm guessing the story would end where... Maybe not where she was hiding, but the story would have changed. That little self-reflection thing at the beginning would have changed depending on what type of character I had chosen. That's some pretty sweet branching narrative right there. Ex-farmer, broken heart, clown. only made sense they would name their son Ibrick. It also meant he got to play all the cute kid roles growing up. He came near to drowning in the river when a bridge collapsed. Since that time, he bore an aversion to rushing waters. Some full moons, he was found shivering by the water in his underclothes, and he would turn and whisper with damp eyes, "When you find it, hold on." And there's nothing here yet because we haven't really done anything yet. Cool that you can see their history. And as you play, you're going to get like more relationships here. And so like she apparently hasn't met, I guess, I don't know. Or we haven't established what their relationship is yet. So we can actually choose what that relationship is to some extent. Okay. Closes the tower door, gentle to make no noise. That was the Mystic's art that I did, right? Tower? Where'd I get that from? Where'd I get it from? Could it just happened? Is it just one of those things? Things a woman's born with that might blossom in her life when she needs them? Well, I might not deserve it, but you never turn down a turkey, so they say. Goriel? Things a woman's... Oh, I already read that. Okay. Maybe in Starlight I'll understand it deeper. Goriel, you alright there? Hey Goriel, something happened? Yeah, I forgot you two were coming. I'm sorry, I just had the weirdest night and day, and Safia and I only barely made it. Yeah, see that smoke on the horizon? It's from the town. Yeah, that's Ottergreen. It burned? Garou. Things are different than they were. Yeah, well, I don't know if you've ever seen something quite like this. A monster? Sure we have. We slay monsters. Okay, well, I do magic. So you've discovered a new site. Still under enemy control, though. Click on the banner to assault it. Salt Solera Stone. And you can choose your party. So I guess as we grow our party, we can choose which ones go into the battle with us. Kind of... I know the gameplay is completely different than Pillars of Eternity, but this kind of gives me a vibe of that. So, somewhat. There are many ways to cook an egg, but let's unify our approach as much as possible. A perfect understanding isn't likely to emerge. What these beasts are, where they came from, what drove them to attack the town of Ottergreen, but letting them nest here feels like the wrong idea. Who feels confident in their bones? Got a good, easy plan? Sure, well... See, so stoicism or courage. Back at my house, it was pretty simple. Kill the beast before it kills you. I just came out of there. If we're methodical, patient, we can fend them off at least. I'll do that one. I'll be stoic. All heroes, +1 armor and warding. Nice. So I've got a raccoon and a roe. Scrambling through the shadows, its barbed appendages eagerly twitch. Goose thrown sloppily around beneath it. It runs staggered. That's what we already fought. Okay. Every hero starts out with 2 action points every turn. Different abilities have different costs. Single action ends the turn. Requires 1 action point, ends the hero's turn. So with this little symbol here, which I don't see any right now. Oh, that one. Strike. I see it. It's here. This little icon. And then a single action costs 1 action point. Swift action is free once per turn. After a swift action is used, that hero's swift actions become single actions. Free action costs no action points. The action points of your selected hero are shown on the top and bottom left. You can hide the top display from options interface. Okay, and the icons are on here too. Who had Splinter Blast? Going back in. Use. We're going in the tower. Get his turn. She's gonna go. That. Okay. Quick step with an elusive step. Fabric slips into gray plane. While in gray plane, he's hidden to enemies and his attacks ignore armor. That's the poison. Interfuse the door. In the door? Okay. Let's see. Thundering Challenge. Once per combat, Zapieta frightens the enemy, forcing them to spend their next turn running away. I'll do that. And that all I can do. Blank them. I don't want to poison her. Now she's going to interfuse stuff. That. I can. This. And This is a strap of leather plates in martial style. Stunt chance. Percentage chance that attacks will inflict additional damage and stun effects. Neither of them have anything. I'll give it to her, I guess. Last misshapen creature folds its bones and dies. Blue fluids darken the dust. Their calm exit to death is the most haunting thing. Feels like they're suffering. Sick. Look. Hey, look at us. Look what we did. Yeah. Day drops, day rises, dusk is sweet, the sunrise sweeter. It's not long before they've cleaned the old tower up a bit. There's still 1,000 questions this place excites. I always knew this morning would rise when I'd gaze into the sky and see a destiny for myself, a destiny to inspire song. Let's not wait to be overrun. We're a company of heroes now. We'll walk the land, we'll fight. People need us, we'll give ourselves a name and make sure it's one they'll sing. Sounds like you've thought about this. So name the company. Will be called Hawk's Freedom. Well, how about Barana's Dawn? Maybe the Druids of Rage? Or enter your own name. Who's Barana? Go with that one. After that, the three of them were inseparable. Rumors are rampant, heroes are needed. This world would be flooded with sorrows, but its defenders are joined by a fire that night. Here, follow the tales of Barana's Dawn. Be remembered. Okay. Your enemies improve their strategies after every fight. A new card is added to the Gorgon deck. The deck is more dangerous now. Okay, so calamities are monsters. Yes. Or they're just like random encounter things. I don't know. Whatever danger. Okay. Okay, so is this saved? Yeah, it is saved. Get legacy points by taking new sites. Recruit heroes, build stations, cancel calamities. Spend legacy points to do things like this. So how many legacy points do I have? Where do I see that? Legacy points 7. Okay. And the days count, apparently. That totally reminds me of Pillars of Eternity. Yeah. This is also like what you would do in a standard tabletop RPG. Yeah. They're actually counting it. A lot of the digital ones don't do that. But this one's actually taking into account this is how long it would take to travel here and so forth. And that's going to affect outcomes. Cool. Okay, once a site is free of enemy control, you can spend some time to secure it. Secured sites provide resources now and at the end of each chapter, which you can use to craft gear at a town or between chapters. I do want to secure it. I just don't like lingering here, alright? These places age you. Secure Sunlara Stone. This site can provide resources now and at the end of each chapter. Investigate thoroughly, catalog everything. Make haste, leave this wobbly tower, and go where going's needed. I want to find something. And its days are passing while you do it. Several days. A thorough delving through the mysteries of Sunlara Stone have proven rewarding. Not exactly the most gripping part of the story, though. Sunlara Stone will return to the hands of the common folk while they tend it. The site will provide resources at the end of each chapter. Hides, ingots, and spell threads. Cool. Bear strength scarf. A draping scarf held by a class plus 0.7 bonus damage. Did you get anything yet? She got, oh yeah, she got shoulder things. Okay. So is it saved? Save. Okay, good. Let's save the game. Yeah, this totally reminds me of Pillars of Eternity. I played that game. That's an old game that they updated and put on the PlayStation. Yeah, it's so it crashed, and it was so slow. But it was really good. I actually stuck with all the crashes and finished the whole thing. So it had to have been good. So prepare defense. Fortify this tile against enemy incursions. It takes time to prepare defenses. Send a party to this tile together. We can recruit, we can craft, we can prepare defense. I would like to prepare defense. Can I do that? This is the route merchants take. It's the natural way in or out. During an enemy incursion, each tier of defense will slow down the enemy and reduce their incursion size by 1. Defenses will also grant buffs during a defense mission. Hiding our position is important. Is it worrying that there's graves behind those trees? Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3? Not our job, though. Not today. Since it's that close to the town. Does it say how many days? "10 days. Remaining. I don't understand this part. 10 days remaining. How long is it going to take for this to do? Or is it we keep taking time doing things? Is this going to affect stuff? So we're into the summer. I'm wasting a lot of time, I guess. Wow. Which one did I choose? I don't remember. Oh, crap. I don't know which one I chose. Tier 3. Oh, crap. I thought I chose Tier 1. Okay. Oops. That was a lot of time. Well, I'm going to save here. And I may try a new thing to see if it changed based on the characters you choose. But I'll do that off stream. Yeah, I think I'm gonna study this one. This one's really cool. I like it. So this one might be one I actually need playing. So yeah, let's do a Rose Thorn Bud now. So at the end of each one, we'll do a Rose Thorn Bud and talk about what's good, what's not good. This is one of the things that I like for y'all to do and participate with me on as we go through these, because this is giving you experience analyzing games and thinking about all the details that are needed for my internet is causing issues. I'm wondering if the workers that have been outside have been damaging our lines or something. It's really annoying. Internet's been going out a lot lately, even though it's supposed to be fiber, which isn't supposed to be an issue. So, Rose Thorn Bud. I don't know what to do to fix that for the stream because it looks bad right now. If that buffer helps any. So, what went well? What was a highlight? So, I do like that you can adjust all the sound settings. You can fine tune sound settings. If I can spell. They're using a crowdsourcing method of translating into different languages. And I like that you can, it automatically detects controller versus keyboard use and switches the tooltips immediately. And the procedural generation of images and based on decisions, the artwork. The flat paper artwork style, which is like the low budget tabletop RPG, like IRL low budget tabletop RPGs. I like that the very well written and well thought out branching narrative because from what I'm seeing, and I can verify this, is that depending on characters, shows personalities of the characters shown. Story changes. For example, the self-reflection at the tower. And so forth. I think I will follow up and verify this with a new game. And I will that a color that I will go back and notice. And I like that tooltips show at all times. And customize the UI. Autosave and save slots. It has options for difficulty level. There is an option including when choices not only matter, but they're final. There's no retry. No do-overs. Time is counted, which adds adds more importance to the decisions. Because I just accidentally chose a tier 3 defense. EJ. And it took 2 seasons. Fortify. Power. Oops. Spring to fall. Oops. The day cost isn't clear though, so let's go through and talk about Thorns. These are just off the top of my head. I know there's more, but for those that are watching this later on demand, feel free to add your own comments here. This is what I'm wanting to do to help you gain experience doing this, thinking critically about the games and not just getting over that awe factor and thinking critically about them. Thinking critically about the designs is going to help you create better experiences if you're trying to get into this as a thing. So yeah, let's participate. I do pay attention to the comments, so if you're watching this later and you add a comment, I do pay attention to them. So go ahead and add your comments. What did you like? What do you think went well? What do you think was a low point? And so forth. So I think the sound went away. There it is. It's quiet right now. The varying levels of sound is kind of annoying when you're sitting idle. But anyway. So but that's because I'm sensitive to I'm sensitive. All of the language options are listed in English instead of their actual language. Now, next the controller, however, only Xbox. Oops. No PS4. No PS5, PS4. The procedural generation of artwork based on decisions. Flat paper artwork styles, very well written, thought out. Need to verify that. Tooltips do show you can customize the UI, the autosave, and slots. Was there anything that I felt that was confusing besides the time options were not clear to me? Time costs aren't clear to me, at least not yet. Hard to figure out without trial and error. And then I didn't have a ton of complaints about this. Let me see what I complained about on Undertale. There wasn't any audio play. You could totally auto progress everything, which, yeah, that's another good thing. Go at your own pace. Manually progress at your own pace. And you can go forward and back. In the story. There's a clear exit. There's a clear save. Yeah, I have nothing. I have no complaints. I don't have a lot of complaints about this, at least not yet. I think when the little character, there is one, like when the character facing opposite direction of enemies when combat starts, is disorienting. Makes me think I'm supposed to go the opposite way. Like it's trying to tell me wayfinding that I'm supposed to be going that way. Like I'm subconsciously seeing it as wayfinding. So we want to have at least one bud per thorn. So you want to always list the language in its native language and not in English, unless you're listing English. This is just so that the people who are speaking that native language can read it. And you could, like, since it's since they're not all of them are translated, they just have the translated ones in native language and the rest in English. What I'm talking about is I get to options. Yeah. I thought there was an option for game. Window. Oh, here, it's right here. So like right here, Chinese should be in Chinese, right? Because it is translated into Portuguese and Spanish and English and German. But now it's got all these things that are missing. So these things that are missing, fine, sure, leave them in English because they're not translated anyway. But these would have Portuguese or Espanol, or I don't even know how you say Chinese in Chinese, but Deutsch. So you would do it in their native language, so when they see this, they can. But another thing about internationalization, though, is that so see there, most of the languages aren't translated, and they're listed to aid community translating efforts, which is cool. That they're wanting to get the community involved in translating. And that would be really cool if you speak a second language. Speak one of these second languages. It would be really cool if you did get involved in that translation effort, because first of all, you get a backstage look at how the branching narrative works, because you have to translate all of it. So if you did speak one of these as a second language, speak British English, even, then you could see like the back, yeah, all of the inner workings of how the branching narrative works, because you're the one that has to translate it, or you're on the team that's doing it. Pretty cool. I don't speak any other languages other than USA English, so can't help there for me, but maybe some of you others who are watching can speak some of these other languages fluently enough to translate. That would be cool. Okay, get back to Go. And the buffering is still not working that great. I apologize for the poor quality of the video. There's something going on with my internet lately. So, Xbox tooltips. This comes up all the time. So just give options for other controllers. Simple enough. That's a very important thing in VR, because the different headsets and the controllers are still not standard. Those time costs aren't clear. Like look for ways to make time costs more evident. So what the buds are is like next steps. So when you do rose thorn bud, roses are just, this is just a quick, and the reason I like it on post-its is this is just a very quick, concise way of looking at what's working, what's not working, what would we do about it if this were our project. So the buds would be considered next steps, and what next steps are these things addressing? So they're directly addressing, because I have it visually here, it's this time cost thing. So next step would be to look for other ways to make that more evident. And it's not necessarily to prescribe the answer, it's to say, okay, this is our next step, we have to go work on this. So it's okay to have something like this to say, okay, we have to make that more evident and keep them from having to go through trial and error to figure this thing out. Now let's go figure that out. It's not so much to be prescriptive unless there is this specific best practice, like list the language in its native language. That's a best practice. But there's not necessarily a best practice for that. You just have to figure out a way to do it. Unless there is a best practice, then list it. Maybe there's one that I'm not aware of. The character facing the opposite direction, subconsciously seeing it as wayfinding. Well, I don't know that it's necessarily... Consider whether or not you want to, like... You would want to make the character... that little... play piece, the character plays face the direction of the enemy, but that would be, this would need like thought and playtesting maybe to figure that out. Otherwise, just leave it. Not a huge thing. It didn't take me long to figure out. Okay, yeah, it's not wayfinding. But wayfinding is definitely very important in VR. Like if we were to play that in VR and you position them somewhere opposite of where they're supposed to be going, that would just be disorienting. So try not to do that unless it's a part of the specific mechanic part of your game that they're supposed to figure something out. Don't do that in VR. So let's see. Internationalization, best practices. I haven't published any. I've written some, but they're not published. I need to go back and make them more relevant to VR before I publish them, but talk about it a lot. Because I have worked for international things before. You would also see, it's very important to support multiple. So know the best practices for cross-platform design. It is very important for VR because multiple headsets and controllers are going to affect your gameplay significantly. So you need to know cross-platform design for VR, unless you're only releasing on one headset. But if you do that, you're limiting a lot by doing that. If you're ignoring a large number of people out there who don't own whatever headset. Like if you're only creating something for the Quest, there are tons of people out there who don't own a Quest, who have a PC-based VR headset, or who have a different, like a Pico or something that is not a Quest, because they hate the fact that they have to create an account that is a meta account that then connects their information even more, and you can get even more information from them than before. So there are a lot of anti-meta people out there who are not going to buy a Quest. So what are your options? I have 2 Quests, so I have the original and the Quest 2. I also have PlayStation VR, and I have a Vive Cosmos and a cardboard. And one of these days, if I can ever afford it, I will get an Apple if they ever do that. Rumors have it they will very soon, but we'll see. So let's see what else. We want to have very clear, this goes back to a gaming best practice of clarity. You want to make sure that you have clarity in your information, especially if it affects the gameplay. and outcomes. So that I'm gonna add here. And I've talked about this before when I talked about tabletop RPGs. Is like if you were to, now you could like check out games like Demio to see how they've done VR tabletop gaming as inspiration for if you were wanting to convert Wildermyth into a VR game. How would you do that? I would say like where it has those story panels, I would say don't do that as a big like pop-up necessarily. You could have a book and you're reading a book, which is kind of like what they're going for. A book on the table like they do with Moss. Like, so like if converting VR, then you could check out the tabletop RPGs reports that I've done. Let me try to find those. RPGs. So here's the video, and here also the article. Article about it. Demio. Like this is a 2D game. Demio. This is Demio. They've got a table here. They've got their tooltips and stuff. I would say I don't have Moss in here, but for like the story sequences, you could use a book. Consider that, and then have a little UI that comes down beneath the book or to the side of the book or whatever, depending on your layout, to let you make your choices. I don't have any screenshots of Moss in here, but like Moss has a storybook here. So you could consider doing something like that for the story in VR. Very cool. Animated, and it tells you when, like it highlights. It's very cool. For telling backstories in VR without making people sick. Yeah, you could do something like that if you're going to translate this into VR. It's just like check out Moss Storybook interaction and the Demio. Look at Demio's tabletop setup and so forth, and see what you like and don't like about that, because this is a much. Also check out Catan, I think. On VR. For that. And then look at, so you're wanting to study how other games have done it and see how you would convert this one into VR, like the maps and everything. Maps that you could look at VR. How would you set that up? And that is it for today. Thanks for hanging out. We will study more next week. I'll see y'all later. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend.